My name's Richard Sloan. I was medical director of the hospice in Dorchester, Joseph Weld Hospice, or Weldmar as it's now known. I had a particular interest in motor neuron disease and wrote a lot of papers and presented at various meetings about how to care for people with MND. When I retired 5 years ago, I decided to work with the association that is there to spread awareness of motor neuron disease throughout the country and abroad, to raise money for research to try and find out more about what causes motor neuron disease, hence ways of hopefully stopping it in its tracks one day, and be there monies to provide support for current patients and their families in the local area. MND stands for motor neuron disease, and it's a disease where the nerves in the body that transmit electrical signals from our brains to our limbs, those nerves gradually die off, so that the signals that we are telling our hands or our legs to do things don't get through, and that results in the person becoming gradually weaker and weaker. So from being able to walk around, they eventually become chair-bound. They may need to have assistance with wheelchairs, although they're very snazzy electric wheelchairs that people, even with relatively little power in their hand, can use to zoom around in. It doesn't just affect mobility, it can affect the nerves that supply the muscles of speech, the vocal cords, so that the person may gradually become unable to talk. But there are sophisticated computer systems and software that Stephen Hawking, the famous physicist, had to produce artificial speech that the person themselves composes. Swallowing muscles may be affected as well, and so that swallowing becomes less and less efficient. There's a risk of food or drink going down the wrong way, going down the windpipe and causing coughing or spluttering. And when it gets to the stage where the person can't swallow at all, or it's just becoming too burdensome, a tube can be inserted into the stomach and artificial food fed in directly that way. Breathing muscles, they too can be affected because the nerves to them die off, in which case there are ways of assisting the person's breathing, and the gentleman you're going to see in the hospice this afternoon, he does have a face mask that he uses intermittently that just aids his weak breathing muscles and allows circulation of air in and out in a more normal way. The Motor Neuron Disease Association was formed about 30 years ago, largely by the friends and family of people who were at that time affected by motor neuron disease. And it's since then developed into a big organisation with headquarters in Northampton that supports people with the illness, and also campaigns to increase awareness amongst the general public and amongst politicians, and also to provide monies for research, not just in this country but around the world, to try and find out more about the causes of motor neuron disease and how one day the illness can be stopped in its tracks, or even in people who might be prone to it, that be predicted in advance, and maybe through genetic therapy, the genes that might be involved are blocked and therefore they don't develop the disease. So the whole ethos of the Motor Neuron Disease Association is looking ahead to the future, trying to find out more about it and put a stop to it, but also helping support current patients and their families in what is very challenging circumstances for both. The motto of the Motor Neurone Disease Association is a world without MND. So that's the ultimate goal. There's still a long way to go to find out more about what causes it and how it might be stopped, but maybe one day there won't be much need for Motor Neurone Disease Association because a cause will be, or causes will be found that can be blocked, and people won't have to suffer. There are a lot of people all around the country involved in raising money for motor neurone disease. There are, I forget how many branches of the association. We are just one that's based in West Dorset, but there are many more throughout the country. And they all, like we, raise monies for the reasons that I've outlined before. There are lots of things that people can do to raise money: sponsored walks, sponsored bake-offs, jumping out of a plane with a parachute, all sorts of different things that are done to raise monies. There was a big campaign a few years ago called the Ice Bucket Challenge. Have you heard of it? Where people would volunteer to have ice thrown over them in a bucket in order to raise money, and to nominate somebody else that they knew to do the same. And that raised millions and millions of pounds. It was a massive campaign. Social media was huge in promoting that. Anybody can get involved with one of the local branches. I guess most people who become members of branches have got some connection with motor neurone disease. They may have known someone, friend or a loved one, who either has it now or sadly died of it in the past. So that's a very strong motivating factor when it comes to people signing up to charities and wanting to make a difference for people in the future. The donations help in providing support for current patients and their families. There are volunteer visitors who are trained by the association who can visit people at home and provide information, be there to answer queries or questions, just to be there, and patients and families knowing there's someone they can call on if they're not sure what to do, or they come up against a problem and they're not sure who can help me with this problem. That's what the trained volunteer visitors, with their inside knowledge and contacts locally, can help put the patient or their family in touch with the right people in that area to try and help with that problem. A lot of the money that is raised goes towards research. There are lots of research projects going on all around the world, and some of them, or quite a number of them, will be funded by the Motor Neurone Disease Association of the UK, or by other brother or sister associations throughout the world. So it's money's going towards the future and trying to find a cure, and money's that is helping current patients and their families to make their lives a lot easier through what is a very challenging disease. There have been quite a few, actually. When you go to conferences about motor neurone disease, where there are often a lot of high-powered scientists and clinicians, doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, all with an interest in motor neurone disease, probably the standout talks in those sorts of conferences are from patients themselves. it's remarkable how brave and how courageous they are, knowing that they've got an illness that can't be cured, knowing that sadly they're going to die from it, and yet somehow they appear remarkably content, provided they know that there are people around that can help support them and their families, that they're not just left to get on with it in dreadful circumstances. So yeah, it's just the courage from people like that that is hugely inspiring and humbling. It's great that you've chosen this as your topic, and it's great that you'll be meeting somebody with the illness and be videoing them. And as I said just now, that is the most inspiring thing when you see people with the illness, and you try and put yourself in their shoes. How the heck could they manage and cope? But it's just inspiring, and it makes you want to help in whatever way you can. So hopefully the video will spread awareness, but also show that despite the terrible circumstances people are in, it's remarkable how well, given support, they can cope. Thank you very much for choosing this subject. I hope it will be really educational for you. I think going to the hospice and meeting the patient this afternoon, I hope it will be inspiring for you. Just visiting the hospice in itself may be a new experience for some of you, but I hope it will be a good one, a positive one. And once again, thanks for choosing this as the subject.